Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 1st Mount Vernon City School District School Board meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee McDonough?
Present.
Trustee Maribel?
Present.
Trustee Mitchell?
Present.
Trustee Middleton?
Present.
Trustee Njenga?
Here.
Trustee White? Trustee Kerwin?
Here.
VP Kelly?
Here.
President Saunders?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. And our student trustee de Grand Prix?
Here.
Okay. There is no legal requirement to recognize public comment at meetings of the Board of Education. However, the board recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of Mount Vernon's children. And accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled board meeting, subject to the terms of the board policy. Please state your name, address, and the organization, if any, you represent. A speaker must register in advance by no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting by contacting the district clerk in person at 165 North Columbus Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, by phone at 914-665-5235, or by email. The board welcomes all respectful comments, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, other Mount Vernon education official, or employee is strictly prohibited. Any such complaint must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. Up to 1 additional minute may be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If appropriate, board trustees and/or the superintendent or other staff members at the direction of the superintendent may immediately respond to a speaker's remarks. Our first speaker tonight is Cynthia Crenshaw.
Good. Okay. Good evening. My name is Cynthia Crenshaw. To those who know me and those that doesn't, I have been an advocate for the children and parents of Mount Vernon since the 80s.
Ms.
When it-
Crenshaw, can you speak up to the mic? And please state your address as well. I'm sorry.
Cynthia Crenshaw. I don't want to state my address.
I'm sorry?
I don't have to state my address. Okay. To those who know me and those that doesn't, I have been an advocate for the children and parents of Mount Vernon since the 1980s. Whenever someone comes to me with an issue concerning a child or school, I will try to see what the problem is and discuss the issue with a relevant person. I am a very strong advocate for Parker School and was instrumental in getting changes done. I will always advocate for what is right. For example, I spoke at 3 churches and was able to present the board with 3 or 4 signed petitions to stop the increase in the charter schools and keep the money in the public school. What is the status of that? Advocated for various issues, including raises for our teachers, and 2 parents has already come to me about the registration process. Is there a backlog? One of my family members is now in Rebecca Turner Alternate School to get help in his courses and to graduate on time. However, after years of the credit recovery being a successful tool and resource in helping our children graduate on time, this board is in the process of eliminating this program. The alternate school is for our children that learns differently in a different setting. Each year, enrollment is increasing. Without this resource, there might be an increase in Mount Vernon dropout rate. Review the budget and decrease dollars in other areas. If you are voting on this issue, vote with your heart, not with increasing people's pockets. It should be all about the kids. Please vote what's right for our children. All trustees, I pray that you would vote what's right. I email each of you. Please consider the facts and do what's best for our children. I see you are voting tonight to hire another lawyer. If the lawyer in this district are inadequate, release them and allocate that money to the education of our children. How can you bring on another lawyer after paying one lawyer $500 per hour, giving one lawyer $10,000 raise after being here less than a year, but teachers can get a $20 raise? Paying one job title well over $500,000. Stop these unethical practices and put the money in the future of our children. Let's work together to enrich all Mount Vernon children to be successful and keep the credit recovery program in full effect. And you know what karma is. Karma can be a blank. Thank you.
Thank you. Dakara Maynard? Dakara Maynard? Not here. Okay. Mark Stuckey?
Good evening, Madam President.
Good evening.
Superintendent, I'm here tonight as a whistleblower. We have an employee within this district who signs in every single morning at 6 o'clock and wind up leaving to do another job. This has been taking place for several years now. And the one who's in charge of the department, two administrators, are letting it go without saying anything. Because what they're doing is using this individual for their advantage. Right about now, what's taking place is you're taking taxpayers' money and you're using it for your gain. Forgive me, I'm up here to protect myself because I'm sick. I should not be here. But what's taking place right now, the administrators too, male and female, are using this person for their advantage because that person sits in the seat that controls the union. It has to stop. If it doesn't stop, then what's going to wind up happening, the state's going to come in, because I'm going to put a letter out there, on what you're calling, if it's not misappropriation of funds, it's stealing money. Something must take place. And the person who's in charge of the department, loving it, getting away with it. I ask you to look into this matter now. It's over at Pennington School. 6 in the morning, the person leaves out, do a paper route. The administrator knows. Not only that, but as we all know, the ceiling fell down at Graham School. I would like to ask Mark Ramundi, did he get a sign-off letter on the ceilings that was put up in that building? Did you, Mr. Ramundi? By the engineer.
Mr. Stuckey.
If not, those ceilings was put up incorrectly. They used the white tracks as you see here as support, which is not holding the weight, will not hold the weight in the long term correctly. How do I know? Before I went on FMLA, I went up and I inspected the ceilings. I got a hold of Mike Raguso and I asked him to come over to look at those ceilings.
Mr. Stuckey, please do not.
He's a
mention
consultant.
names.
He's a consultant. And what wound up happening is I asked him, do you see anything wrong with the ceiling? He said, no. I said, look at it again. Do you see anything wrong? He says, no. I said, is this a commercial building? He says, yes. I said, is it a commercial educational building? He says, yes. Then I asked him, do we have children in this building? He says, yes. I said, now what's taking place now is the ceiling is put up incorrectly. He took pictures. He allegedly sent it out to the engineers. That's why I asked Mr. Ramani, did he get a report on it?
You could cut Mr.
Did he sign off on it?
Cut his mic.
You
Mr.
going to cut
Stuckey?
my mic?
Yes, Mr. Stuckey, I've asked you.
I just said, did he get a report on it?
Numerous times not to mention names.
Okay, I won't mention no more names.
Enough.
Give me my 40 minutes back, please. Now, what's taking place is our children are at risk. The parents over at Graham Elementary School, parents, friends, nieces, nephew, if they don't see this report from an engineer, that engineer taking responsibility of the ceiling, I'm asking all the parents to keep their kids home until the board winds up having a meeting and showing that our kids are not at risk.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
If I could stand up here, that means I love our children. And I love my
Security,
district.
can you ask Mr. Stuckey to leave the podium, please?
That's how it goes. Our kids must die.
Who's next,
Take place,
Rita?
right? I don't want to see no death. We dodged the bullet.
That's it for public comment.
District.
Thank you for public,
Back off. Please, just back off.
thank you for public comment.
Lower, and I'm covered by the state.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
Okay. That would be Mr.
Presentation.
Greetings, Mount Vernon City School District community. On October is National Bullying Prevention Month. The Mount Vernon City School District continues its commitment to deter violence in school, online, and in our community. We want to encourage students, parents, and staff to participate in raising awareness about the harmful effects of bullying and how together we can support prevention, intervention, and reduce incidents. On October 7th, 2024, we are asking the Mount Vernon City School District teachers, staff, students, and family to join us for the World Day of Bullying Prevention. As we unite and take a stance against hate, bias, bullying, and unkind acts of intolerance, we are asking everyone to wear a blue shirt. Schools are encouraged to use this day to educate their students, staff, and families about bullying. Prior to the opening of schools yesterday, the Mount Vernon City School District was informed of an unconfirmed online threat to an unidentified school by the Mount Vernon Police Department. The Mount Vernon Police Department determined that it was safe to open schools. As a precautionary measure, entry scanning procedures at all schools were increased and extra time was taken to thoroughly search all bags to ensure the safety of our students and staff. Nothing suspicious was found. The district's typical entry procedures does include daily bag searches. The Mount Vernon Police Department continued their investigation through the day, and they were able to pin it down to a particular student. So I say to parents, please speak with your children regarding making threats to shoot, kill, or harm anyone in a school building. These remarks are taken profoundly seriously in the climate, in the aftermath of so many senseless school building killings. Families will be subjected to police searches of their homes, and students will be disciplined. Tonight we have 3 speakers. We're going to begin with food services, the HMB consultant, Mr. James Bagley.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Good evening. I'd like to thank Dr. Smith and Mr. Ramondi for the opportunity to speak with you all this evening and to discuss the child nutrition aspect of meal service, specifically second meals. I think as the trustees and the Board of Education know that the district is enrolled in the community eligibility provision, whereby all students in all grade levels receive a free breakfast and a free lunch each and every day. And that program is a 4-year commitment on USDA's part, renewable after the 4th year for another 4 years, or any time during that first 4-year period, you can renew if your directly certified percentage increases. As a result of serving each student one meal free at breakfast and lunch, I believe there's some concern about second meals. Second meals to breakfast and lunch are not prohibited or not allowed for reimbursement from USDA and the State Education Department. There is a small statement about breakfast that there is, should there be leftovers at breakfast, those leftovers can be issued to students, but more directly, the idea and the intent is to give one student a breakfast and a lunch. Second meals should be considered a la carte sales, and those second meals should be priced at a dollar amount that's agreeable to the district and to your food service management company. In this case, it's Aramark, and we usually recommend in the area of $1 for breakfast and $2 or a little bit higher for lunch as far as the second meal goes. Should a student not want a complete second meal, the opportunity is certainly there for the student to purchase an entree by itself. In other words, if they didn't want, if the Board of Ed established a price for the second meal of, just as an example, $2, but a slice of pizza was $1 or $1.50, they could simply buy the pizza and not receive the second meal, if that was more advantageous to the student. So that's how the program works as far as the accountability of the meals. Each meal is counted for at breakfast and at lunch through your POS system, and I'll be happy to address any questions or concerns that any board member or anyone has.
Mr. Zabigli or Bagley?
Jim, please.
Jim, yes. Hi, Jim. I'm Donna Marable, Trustee Marable. Quick
Yes.
question. Who determines the price of the a la carte meals?
Great question. The pricing of the a la carte should be in the child nutrition contract. When that bid was released and the various companies bid on that, the a la carte items and the a la carte pricing should be in the contract itself. Annual increases to that, or annual adjustments to that, I should say, should be negotiated between the business office and the management company annually.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, board trustees? Everybody's good?
Yeah, I do have another question. So if there are meals left over after the first meal and even after the second meal, what happens to that food?
So typically, our consulting firm goes to a lot of school districts in New York State. We're all over. And what we typically see is a food service management company, in your case, Aramark, there are other companies out there, that they usually evaluate repurposing that food if it's at all possible. So there are certainly some items that can be repurposed. Just as an example, if a chicken patty is left over at lunch, the chicken itself could be repurposed and put into perhaps an entree salad for the very next day. You wouldn't want to use it more than that, but those various items can be repurposed and reserved. no more than 1 day, that's for sure. In some cases, the item is not able to be reused, and that is disposed of. So as I said, there's no, unfortunately, there's no leftovers to be given out to students after at lunch whatsoever.
Okay. So
Unfortunate.
so the facts is that the U.S. Department of Education has determined that we must charge for a second lunch.
Yes, yes, and it must be considered à la carte. And if you don't charge for for the second lunch, there's no way for your food service management company to generate any revenue. As you may know, and I don't know how many people are in tune to the contract itself, but à la carte sales such as chips, second slices of pizza and burgers and whatnot, those type items are sold to the students and then converted into what's called an à la carte equivalent meal. And then Aramark, in your case, is paid their meal rate for lunch for those à la carte sales. And not to dive into it too far, but for every $4.77 that is generated à la carte wise, that equates to 1 meal. And Aramark would receive their lunch meal rate for that $4.77. And I don't know what their lunch meal rate is, but I would assume it's in the high threes or thereabouts. So that's how that. So you do want to generate money for the a la carte sales. Otherwise, Aramark is paying for the food, cooking the food, and issuing the food without any revenue. So they need to offset that.
So when they generate the contract, there is a contracted price where they are receiving revenue for the first meal, even though the children are not paying for it. Aramark is still receiving revenue, correct?
Yeah.
And so they cook the extra food, and then they get revenue for that by selling it to the students, right? To generate revenue. But if they don't use the food, then they discard it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, in summary, it is. The Aramark and all the management companies, they're fairly sharp. They keep daily production records, and these production records detail exactly how many servings of a particular item they prepare. Once it's prepared, they track how much is offered to the students, how much is served, and what is left over. So the next time that particular product is on the menu, they'll go and look at that, and if there was a fair amount left over, they'll cut back. If they ran out of the particular item, they will increase the production of that. So it is a process that they're constantly evaluating, and they try not to have leftovers if at all possible, but it happens. There's no doubt.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a question. We're having issues with board docs. Mr. Ramundi, when did we, or, I'm sorry, well,
Trustee
when
Mitchell.
did we start?
Trustee Mitchell, ask Dr. Smith.
Oh, even better. Dr. Smith, when did we start dealing with HMB? Because I don't remember seeing a resolution where we approved it. Because this company replaces our food service director that we lost, right? No. It's not?
Does not.
Okay.
This particular company, this particular company is someone that we was exploring even when we had a manager in place to help with our food services issue. They worked with many, many districts. We are exploring continuing a relationship with them because right now we don't have anyone. But they're knowledgeable and they're helpful and they understand the laws as it pertains to serving food.
So we haven't engaged them as yet, correct?
Mitchell.
I thought I'm close enough. So we haven't engaged them yet, as yet?
You could answer that.
HMB can answer it?
Check? Okay. Hi, everybody. So this is the food service company, the consulting company that we are engaging in a assessment of our food service operation. So they're going to come in, do a couple-day assessment, do a formal write-up. Jim, if I'm leaving something out, please, add to it, and then give us a full report to see the status of our food service company and our food service operation for the district, make recommendations, and go forward.
Are they in any way related to our food service company now? At all?
No.
And he's gonna he's gonna do this free of charge?
No, there's a monetary value associated with this, but it's well under and in line with the purchasing and procurement policies for the state.
So we have RFP documents and all of that, and we'll see all of that? No.
This wouldn't require an RFP. So if we were to enter a long-term agreement, we'd put out an RFP. But something like this, it doesn't meet that financial threshold that would require an RFP.
Will board members see the dollar amount before we spend?
If you'd like, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? Any other questions? Student trustee, any questions? No? Okay. All right, thank you. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you, Jim.
really quickly, Jim. So as far as the second meals, I know we try to control how much is in the production so that there's no food waste, and that when a meal is served, it has to be paid for. But this would be the same practice if we were self-op as well, correct? Because we are purchasing food from some sort of vendor.
Yes, that is correct. Yep. Regardless of who's running the operation, the same rules apply. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Up next, we have Career and Technical Education, CTE, will be presenting Mr. Brian Simmons. He's our Director of CTE.
Good evening, Board Trustees, Madam President, and Acting Superintendent Smith. Good to see you tonight. I'm here to share some very good news, which is that we are meeting the needs of our students from a career and financial end. A year ago, I met before you and I asked the question, what is the biggest question a person will ask themselves to determine their happiness? And you came back with me with the answer, what do you want to be when you grow up? And this is what we've been cultivating over the past year with our students. We have many, many successes. If you look at the board behind you, we have our new brand, which we initiated last year, which is the road to college and career success begins at MVHS. This has become a very popular brand, and many people have borrowed it so far, but you'll see it plastered around the Mount Vernon High School. So in summary, and I don't know where to point this to get the screen to go to. There we go. The core of CTE is career exposure, career exploration, career engagement, career empowerment. And currently at Mount Vernon, where do I point this to so we get this? It's not going right now, I'm pointing it. Okay. We have to go one back. It's going to be clunky, it would be better if I could point it at it. Yeah. Where do we point at to get it? It's not working, so it's slow. So in any event, go to the next one, the next slide. Here are the current career classes that we have, okay, in the district. Now I'd like you to go to the next slide, and I want to show you the progression on this road to career and success. In 2022-23 school year, there was one state-approved CTE program, and that was culinary. All right? The following year, next slide, we added 3 more. And I want to shout out Mr. Noel Campbell, who played a major role in this at the time. Right? We added graphic arts, nursing assistant, automotive technology. 1 year later, please go to the next slide, we had added cosmetology, barbering, and cybersecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, what I want to impress upon you is sometimes we can become immune to success. It can seem like, oh, of course, it just makes perfect sense. Across New York State, I have yet to find a parallel of growth that seismic, that quick, that expansive. It just has not happened. So much so that I want to say right now where the state ed CTE Technical Assistance Center has reached out to us, and as a result of this seismic growth has chosen Mount Vernon High School as the site of their what they're calling Framing Tomorrow, their regional support and sharing network for all CTE educators across New York State. And what they've told me behind closed doors is that to always hold on to your, no, okay. What they have told me is that, I got it. What they have told me is that the perception of Mount Vernon has dramatically shifted. So we will be hosting them on November 6th. We are extremely proud. They are extremely proud with us, and only good things happen in the future as a result. Next slide. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Sometimes you can become a prisoner of your own success, because we enjoyed getting all of these new program approvals, but now that we're sitting on top of 7 of these, now it requires, it's not like one department, it's like 7 departments, 7 different technical assessments, 7 different curricula, 7 different, all of this. So we are now increasing our capacity without having any more staffing to do it. But this is one of the tasks that we're on to right now, and we've onboarded very, very successfully. Next slide, please. So some little highlights from this past year is CDOS, the CDOS commencement credential, increased last year by 10%. To put things in perspective, 4 years ago, we had 0 students who earned a CDOS commencement credential. This is based on work-based learning, and now we're up to 27. Our automotive tech program, we had 17 program completers, thanks in part to Mr. Michael Malisay, who is an incredible instructor and wanted me to share with everyone that sometimes students in his class will come to school because of that class. Also, we had an expansion. I expanded it last year to have an after-school program with the Ford ACE program, opened it up to Rebecca Turner and to STEAM Academy. As a result of that, one of the STEAM Academy students transferred, is now a Mount Vernon High School student. There's more news to come in the weeks from Ford. All I'm going to say is this: get your popcorn ready. I'm not making any announcements tonight, just putting a feeler out there. Culinary arts. The accomplished Miss Samantha Cohen had 19 program completers and local internships with local businesses like Ashley Sweet Treats, Patty Pops. So this is a department that is on the move. And let's move to the next slide. Certified nursing assistant. 10 students who I brought to this board 1 year ago, 10 program completers, 10 certified nurses, nursing assistants, 100% prometric passing rate. Let's hear it for them. Mr. Royce Russell is kind of looking at me because we know behind the scenes there was a lot of backdoor machinations to get contracts and to get all of this in place. It was not easy, but it was worth it, because Sarah Newman Jewish Home offered a job to every single one of those students, and one of them is currently employed there while she's going to college. Next slide, please. We also onboarded last year, for the first time, emergency medical training. We had our pilot program, and what you're looking at, we had 9 of 10 students who sat for it successfully passed the New York State skills assessment for EMT, and they were given from the county executive a proclamation right there. You can see it on the screen. And we're still working on negotiations to see what happens this year. But that was what happened last year. Very, very exciting stuff. Next slide. We have a robust stable of local partners that continues to grow. There are business advisory committee. They are what keep us current with industry trends. Our curricula is a moving target. If the industry changes, the curricula must change, and we get this feedback from our partners. They're our counsel. They're the lifeblood of our programs, and we meet with them regularly. They will be at that Framing Tomorrow meeting on the 6th. Next slide, please. To give you some sense, on the left side of the screen are the events that happened last year, but they're not all of them. Why not? Because they wouldn't fit on the screen. So we don't have, we have one of the smallest departments in the district, and yet we have these blockbuster events month after month, sometimes week after week. And if you read down this, there were huge things. The Shark Tank, the House That Time Forgot competition. President Saunders remembers that very well. Two that I'd like to point out. The first one, the CTE Showcase Night. It's the first time we had 8th grade students from around the district come with their families to Mount Vernon High School, and we led college tours around the entire building. They went in and they had a hands-on learning experience in each one of those, and as a result, it funneled students, ignited a passion. Many of them decided to go to Mount Vernon High School because of it. But the one that is nearest, dearest to my heart of all of them, even though I love all of them, is CTE Senior Citizen Makeover Day. We partnered with Mount Vernon City, and we had senior citizens come in, and we did a before shot and after shot. You can see some of them, and all I can say is that it was a day of love, and it represented to me what CT really is, which is community, bringing a community together. And one woman grabbed me, and she said, "Come here," and she pulled me down while she was getting her hair washed, and I came in, she goes, "1 year ago, my husband died. We were married for 60 years, and I've been terrified of this day." She goes, "And I'm going to walk out of here with a smile on my face today." This is what CTE does, and it happens because of your support. So thank you. Every time you go to an event, realize this is the magic that is happening because of our teachers. Our teachers are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into everything they do. Next slide, please. Okay, I said this a year ago. This was the tagline a year ago. CTE is academic, and indeed it is. Along with the CNI initiative, Dr. Doggett, we are infusing literacy across the district, and CTE is no different. But literacy looks different in every different department. So in CTE, it looks like authentic literacy. I know, Trustee Maribel, we had a conversation at an educational committee, and there was a rightful concern that maybe having so much emphasis on writing, daily writing, might kind of like push down on the joy of hands-on learning. But this is happening in ways that are very organic. A couple of examples. In the nursing assistant class, they're breaking down case studies in nursing and then writing sketches and acting them out. They're playing taboo in culinary and learning kitchen equipment vocabulary words. And in photography, thanks to Mr. Ubiwa, who's now back with us, we have students who are going to be creating their own content and filing for their own copyrights. This is organic literacy. Next, career and financial management. This is what I like to see as the tentacles on the ground in the K-8 schools. We have this career and financial management class, and I sent out a survey last year, and the feedback I got was that a lot of the teachers didn't feel that they had a lot of support. And some of them, this is not really what they do. They might be in a different area. So we brought them together and initiated a year-long PLC, because my thinking is that the impact that you can make on a young person when they're first introduced to finance, into career, can change a trajectory for a life. Because there's such a thing as like money trauma. We've heard of this, right? Because if we have family associations and times are tough, it can leave scars. And we want to make that imprint early. So we're meeting together to share resources, give support, and there's a tremendous amount of energy going with that group. Lastly is the IBCP program this year, and this is a hearty shout out. I have a feeling Dr. Pauline Pierce is watching this right now, and this is a shout out to her and her team and Miss Amy Abel, who have been working on this for years. I think even Noel Campbell had a hand in this at one point. And this is for students to no longer have to choose between an IB degree and a career pathway. Students can do both. They can take a nursing assistant or a culinary class on their way to an IBCP diploma. So that is a huge thing. So essentially what we have is, the old model of thinking was that CTE is vocational and it's kind of a lesser tier. Everyone from a student with disabilities to the highest achieving students in the school can all benefit from CTE. Next slide. So some of our additional goals is to onboard all of these new CTE pathways. Again, remember, prisoner of our own success. Very, very incredibly complex to manage all of that. Getting them approved is one thing, but now we have to meet all of the state requirements. Again, without any additional staffing, but we're doing it. Culinary program needs to be reapproved. It will be in June. It's up for the 5-year reapproval. We're going to do it. We're going to expand our school-based enterprises. That's what gave us our huge success with CDOS and work-based learning opportunities. We trained 2 of our teachers, Ms. Cohen, Mr. Pritchett, in print design, and we are putting the business into the kids' hands, upscaling how much of the printing is done by the kids. Eventually, the entire Mount Vernon High School will be, the printing workhouse will be done by the kids. The visitation cosmetology barbering programs, also school-based enterprises, expanding our partnerships. And lastly on this page is something called the CLNA for future funding. So what does that mean? That means that CTE programs, you've heard of this, get federal funding by way of a Perkins grant, something that Mount Vernon City School District had many years ago, but somehow or another, many years ago, just lost it. So we have been digging the trenches in order to make ourselves viable to apply for that. And I want to make a shout out to Mr. Carlos Ramirez and his team who got the data systems ready. So this year, we will be doing a needs assessment for all of our programs that are eligible, and we will be working with the state. So at the end of this year, once this needs assessment to see where our deficiencies are in these programs, it will put us in a position for the first time in many, many, many years to apply for a Perkins grant, because funding is everything, and we know that. A lot of the work that is happening is not the big announcements, it's the trench work behind the scenes, and that is where we're building a foundation. That's what's happening. But hold on one second before you do. You might look at all this and say, you should just quit there. That's enough. That's enough for, you have enough of a boat, but it's not. I've been spending the last year and asking a lot of questions and looking, saying, what are the areas of opportunity with our deficit of resource? And after many conversations, came to one unerring conclusion. Next slide. A new hospitality management pathway to pioneer something that has not been done. So Mount Vernon students will now have access to hands-on career training in the hospitality sector with state-of-the-art industry practices for immersion in high-paying careers and post-secondary options. At a time when the district is having sometimes challenges with retention, the CTE department has actually recruited a highly, highly talented and experienced hospitality instructor who you will meet in a second. But before we go down that road, I just want to go to the next slide and show you a little more information on this. You might be asking, why would we want to do this? Because culinary arts is really a subset of a larger umbrella, which is hospitality. And what they call this in the industry is front of house, back of house. Back of house is what we have now. It's these wonderful board meetings where you eat this delicious food cooked by Mount Vernon High School culinary students, and they cook for you. It's the food sanitation, the food prep, and they give it to you. It's great. But you know, if you've gone to a restaurant, there's the maitre d', there's the restaurant owner, there's the budgeting, there's the ordering, there's the greeting, there's the hosting, there's the private chef, there's the private yacht. There's all of these hospitalities careers. And when they come together, we call it front of house, back of house. Next slide. Okay, so go 2 slides ahead. Okay, so hospitality pathway goals. Before we go to that, the hospitality employability options, entrepreneurship, restaurant ownership and management, food service careers, culinary arts, bakery, pastry arts, travel, tourism, food science, catering, events planning. Ladies and gentlemen, we live a stone's throw away from the global mecca of culinary, which is Manhattan, and we need a footprint in there. This is the area of opportunity. Go back 2 slides, please. Okay, so right now you might say, well, what is this going to look like on the ground? Okay, so right now the culinary arts program is we have the introduction to culinary arts 1, where they learn how to cut skills, all of this, culinary 2, and then culinary 3. But as we know, Dr. Smith, we're moving forward to mastery. So let's go to the next slide. This is what our new redesigned pathway will look like. We can, because culinary is one of the most popular pathways we have, we will double the enrollment of students entering both pathways into one course called Introduction to Hospitality and Culinary. Depending on student interest and aptitude, at the end of that year, they will be funneled down one of two pathways, either the culinary track or the hospitality track. And by the time they get to Culinary 3 and Hospitality 3, both sets of master learners will coordinate in teams for events, event planning, things like pop-up dining labs, things that we've never had before. And I'm saying this because I've seen it happen in my previous school. I've seen a school go from here to world class. What I'm here to tell you is there's a lot of shiny objects that get thrown around sometimes. I'm not here to peddle something. I'm here to imagine the future and to tell you that this is it, that 3 years from now, you're going to turn around and say, oh my God, I can't believe we have students who are becoming in 5-star Michelin restaurants and getting scholarships and all of these kinds of things. This is the pathway. But I know what you're thinking. Where are you getting the money for this, Simmons? Where's it coming from? Next slide. Next slide. What we did is, over the summer, in my month I should have been off, was rummaging through the district, finding equipment that was unused, found a 3-tier sink, found refrigeration, found all of these kinds of things. Went to Benjamin Turner, got knives, got pans, got pots, get everything you could imagine, and we pulled this together and went to what was previously the Sundown Room in Mount Vernon High School. Last year, it was just kind of like a graveyard of computers and storage, and we said, no, no, no. Back in the heydays, President Saunders, when CTE was prime in Mount Vernon, that whole back of the Mount Vernon High School building was CTE. We are reclaiming physical space for hands-on learning, and we're doing it at almost nothing. So if you look at the pictures, you see the top left, you can look at the progression right there. We had that little artifice, that edifice that was up there. I want to shout out Mr. Mark Raimondi, Mr. Mike Ragusa, with everything else they had to do. They understood this vision, they listened, and I thought at some point they wouldn't pick up my phone calls, but they never stopped, and they prepared this space. And if you look at the lower right, you will see the progression. The lower right is Chef Kat Rodriguez, who had parents greeting in the lower right. It's not finished yet. We will be in there in the next 2 weeks. Also been having conversations with Monroe College for a feeder program with them. And the ultimate intention, again, because I like to dream big, is to have 2 kitchens in Mount Vernon High School, because that level of productivity will exponentially grow the footprint of what we can do. Okay? One more slide. As if this hasn't been grandiose enough, let's do one more. This is the 25th anniversary of the first Star Wars prequel with the trailer that said every generation has a legend. Every journey has a first step. Every saga has a beginning. Mount Vernon is a place of legends, a place of sagas and first steps. And we learned this last week with Rye Benjamin, right? I'm here to tell you tonight that we're initiating a whole new era of legends. And I like to bring some of them up. These are just, the next slide, just 5 weeks into their hospitality journey. And we have Chef Kat Rodriguez with 3 of her hospitality opening team who will be those future masters that I told you. Please come up to the microphone. They'd like to address you.
Good evening. My name is Skylar Mack, and I am a 10th grader at Mount Vernon High School.
Good evening. My name is Jada McMullen, and I'm a 10th grader at Mount Vernon High School.
Hi, my name is Amira Arroyo, and I am a 10th grader at Mount Vernon High School. I have a question for you all. What is hospitality? Any takers?
Hospitable.
Accommodating, I think hotel, I think not just accommodating, but compassion, caring, providing, comfort, everything that has to do with making someone's presence feel comfortable and welcoming, warm. That's what I get.
Thank you. I have a question for you, Jaden. What's hospitality mean to you?
Hospitality means to me is to make someone feel seen, heard, and cared for. And I would like to invite all of you to practice a little hospitality with us today. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to come up and talk to you guys.
At our hospitality program at Mount Vernon High School, we learn and practice giving each other, we learn and practice hospitality management, culinary arts, and hotel management and tourism. I want to thank you all for giving us this time to talk about our lovely program. I also want to thank Chef Kat for helping us go through this entire program and giving us all a great space. I am now going to turn it back to Mr. Simmons.
So thank you so much. Let's hear it one more time for our new hospitality future legends. All right.
Could I just make a comment quickly?
Yes.
These young, as I was coming in tonight, I didn't know these young ladies were part of this program, this hospitality program. They were entering the building before me. 2 doors. They each opened a door for me and let me go through. I was like, wow, thank you so much. Hospitality.
Yes.
Hospitality.
And they're in a classroom right now. They're not even in the exciting new space where they will be preparing food and have a cold kitchen and all of this. But, trustees, you're not off the hook yet. We have 3 more questions that I want to ask you. And in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, I want to ask you a question. Which Hispanic-owned food company is the largest in the United States of America? Now think, this is tough. Very good, okay. Number 2, my second question is, who is the biggest producer of Latin food in the Western Hemisphere? Which company is the biggest producer of Latin food in the Western Hemisphere? You guys are on a roll. Let's clap for yourselves. Question number 3. In the last 24 hours, which international company agreed to become the next partner of the Mount Vernon City Career and Technical Education Department and will sponsor the Hospitality and Culinary Department? This is literally in the last 24 hours, we had conversations, and a lot of things were discussed, so I don't like to overpromise. Product will be provided to the programs. There will be professionals. We'll be looking at things as potential competitions, and there's an open sky right now and an open conversation, but they are now our newest and biggest partner next to Ford Motor Company. So thank you tonight for listening about career and technical education. And if you want to see, yes, Trustee Middleton, if you want to see the space, let me know. You're welcome to come down and take a look at it. It is very inspiring. Yes?
Love the optimism and how you're striving for excellence where you are. But where does Rebecca Turner Academy fit into the mold of everything that you're doing to push these students forward since they have come from Mount Vernon High School?
That's a really good question, and it invites a structural challenge that is just part and parcel to the way we're structured as a school district. So I think I've been very vigorous in the last year of trying to meet that challenge. So I hate to say it, but funding comes down to a lot of this. What I did after school was open up that Ford Opportunity Program to them, and it was once in a lifetime. Ask Mr. Newby. He was thrilled.
That was good then, but what about now? So
no, I understand, but I don't want to jump past the progress that we've made because we have to look reality in the eye, right? The thing is, we need funding to continue after-school programs like that. I'm in communication to re-sign the EMT program. I'll be very candid with you. Our partner pulled out in July because of staffing issues and different things. It had nothing to do with us. I've been renegotiating this, and I don't have an answer for you tonight, but if so, we will be looking at Rebecca Turner next. But now, if you want to have a conversation about within the day, that's now looking at an entirely different model that requires a completely different structure, and it opens up lots of cans of worms like, can every student in every building participate in every other program in every other school that interests them? That is beyond my pay grade, but anytime you want to have that conversation, give me a call and I'll talk to you.
Well, you can start slow, but I want to say kudos to you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Thank you.
As a former CTE accounting teacher at Mount Vernon High School, I would just like to say thank you so very much for reinvigorating the CTE program, because it was a heyday, and we know, and I'm glad that we actually are valuing what students can learn across the curriculum and across the guides and across the careers. And I also would like to say kudos at this point, who was my boss at the time when I was working there was Mr. Ralph Tedesco. He was instrumental in making sure that those programs thrived. And why Perkins Grants left, you can call Ralph Tedesco, and I'm sure he would like to hear what you have to say.
And I want to thank all of you for the support, because I know that I get the sense that you really believe in it and you feel it, and that's what keeps it alive. So thank you for believing in it. Only positive things are happening. Have a great night. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
And students, thank you so very much. Your 10th graders, thank you for your hospitality. Next up, we have Rebecca Jones. She's a principal at Lincoln, and she will be discussing our adult education program.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam President, Acting Superintendent Smith, members of the board, members of your cabinet, members of the community. I have no partnerships to speak of. However, I am very hospitable. So good evening once again. My name is Rebecca Jones, and I'm the principal at Lincoln School, and I am also the project manager for the Mount Vernon Adult Education Program, which many people do not realize has been in existence for well over 40 years. And as a child of immigrants myself, I can personally attest to the value and the importance of programs such as this, and I'm honored and I'm humbled to serve in this capacity and to continue this great work. I'll need the clicker. Clicker don't work? Okay. Next slide, please. So, before we talk about the work, I'd like to invite you to imagine. Imagine what it must be like for a 10-year-old child to leave her homeland with her family and to travel all the way to the United States, a country where English is not her native language. Almost overnight, she'll be immersed in a new school, a new culture, a new language. She'll have new teachers, and she'll even have to make new friends. Well, inasmuch as this will be a challenging transition, I can assure you that by the end of that school year, and with the assistance of a host of support services, she will be speaking English nearly as well as her classmates, and she will be in the playground talking smack and playing the dozens like the best of them. Next slide. Next slide, please. But what about the young adult who comes here all alone? Their family is back home. They have no web of support, inasmuch as that woman has the same hopes and dreams as that 10-year-old child. She's aged out of school. She doesn't speak English, and finances are an issue. Next slide, please. This is where, I'm sorry, I need some water. My mouth is dry. The Mount Vernon Education Program steps in. Next slide, please. See my water? Sorry. Thank you. So, at Mount Vernon Adult Education, we offer ESL classes as well as GED classes. We're located in the heart of our community at Lincoln School at 170 East Lincoln Avenue. Classes are held Monday through Thursday from 6 to 8:30 p.m. It is a year-long program. We are working fall, winter, spring, and summer. We take folks from every walk of life. The only requirement is that you're 21 years or older. In addition to which, all classes are free. However, we tell our students that you might not pay for these classes, but you must pay in time, effort, and a commitment to your learning. Next slide, please. What are the primary goals of the program? To provide English as a second language for non-English speaking adults, to provide high school equivalency classes to prepare students for the GED, and to provide access to educational and employment opportunities that will impact the lives of our students and open up a world of possibilities for them. Next slide, please. That all begins with a robust registration process. Many of you hear the robocalls that go out, in addition to the email blasts that are translated in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. Next slide, please. The state requires us to have an intake process, which means they must complete a demographic form that gives all of their personal information. That's called an ISRF form. They must also sign a student contract, and they must sign a student attendance agreement. They also have to get the American Disabilities Disclosure Act, and they must register for Job Zone, which I'll tell you a little bit more about soon. And as you can see, we had a full house for registration. Next slide, please. We close out our registration process with a student orientation. These are all of the adults that attended our registration just a couple of weeks ago at Lincoln School, and they are in the auditorium. And it's at that time that I introduce myself, all of the teachers, the case managers, the entire staff, and we explain our respective roles. We go over the program rules, and we highlight student expectations. Next slide, please. And then we begin pre-testing. And pre-testing gives us a baseline of student abilities, and we have Ms. Cipriano, who is our testing coordinator, and she oversees all of the testing of our students. She is trained to administer 2 exams, the TABE test as well as the BEST Plus. Next slide, please. The BEST Plus is a quick assessment. It's an oral exam that's administered in about 10 minutes. She'll ask some scripted questions to determine students' understanding of the language and then place them accordingly. Next. And the TABE are for students who are taking GED. English is not an issue for them. We need to approximate their grade level when they last finished school and then place them in classes accordingly. Next slide, please. And in addition to being pre-tested, after 40 hours of class, all students must be post-tested so we can measure gains. Next slide, please. And we're off to the races. Once students are pre-tested, we place them in their respective classes. This is an ESL Level 1 class taught by Ms. Ferreira. Next slide, please. We have Ms. Laurent, who also teaches an ESL class. It's Level 1. Ms. Buffa teaches an ESL Level 1 class, and these are all pictures taken from just last week. Next slide. We have Ms. Irizarry, who teaches a Level 2 class. Next slide. Ms. Lewis teaches a hybrid. It's like a 2, high 2, low 3 class. Mr. Luca teaches a Level 3, 4 class. And then we have our GED class, which we split up based on content. Ms. King, who's new to our program, she's a lovely addition, teaches English and social studies. Next slide. and Mr. Bacchus teaches math and science for GED. Next slide. All of our teachers are New York State certified faculty. They come with a range of expertise. They either have a common branch license, a content area license. For example, if you're sitting for the GED test, you need a teacher who can teach algebra and who can teach calculus. Math is one of the hardest areas of that test to pass, so you must have a content area expert for classes such as that. We have E&L specialists, reading specialists, a special educator, and a social worker on our team as well. Next slide. This is part of our curriculum. Although they are teachers at heart, they know what they need, but we also have the side-by-side curriculum for our ESL students and GED prep for our GED classes. In addition to being certified teachers, all of our teachers must sit for 14 hours of professional development. That's because the work we do during the day with children is the practice of pedagogy. When you work with adults, you must focus on practices that engage andragogy. So we know that our adults come to us with a wealth of experience and a wealth of cultural capital. So that's something we take into consideration when we're teaching our adults. We also know they have an intrinsic motivation. They want to be there and they are ready to learn. We do not, thankfully, have any behavior problems at Adult Ed. Next slide, please. However, there are certain issues that are common for adult learners who come from different countries and are in a lower socioeconomic profile. And they are barriers to learning. And that is why we have 2 case managers who work with our students to help them stay the course. So, for example, if somebody says to one of our students, I got a job for you next week, it's going to be at night, and you're going to make some quick money, more than likely, work will trump school. So what we try to do is work with our adults and let them know that you can get consistent work. In fact, Mr. Campbell, we have 2 of our adults who are applying for lunch monitor positions through the district website. So we're very pleased about that because there is work to be had. And so we said, you know what, this will be great for you so you can go to work during the day and you can come to school at night. Transportation can be an issue for some of our adults. Many don't realize that Metro cards come at reduced prices for seniors, or if you have certain qualifying disabilities, or if you, in the summer, for example, the Beeline was free all summer. Sometimes it's just a matter of giving our students the bus schedule and interpreting them into their language so that they know which bus to take that ends up at the corner of Lincoln Avenue so they can get to work. Childcare might be an issue. In our school during the day, we know of plenty of babysitting services, and we refer our parents at night to those daycare centers. And of course, there are language barriers. We make sure we interpret everything in their native language for them. Next slide, please. Job Zone is also something all students in adult ed must create an account to be on. It allows them to plan their future goals, to organize a job search. We pull them and ask them, what is it that you'd like to do? All roads lead to Rome. You're here for a reason. It's not just about coming to learn the language and eventually taking the GED, but exploring career options. We work with them on creating cover letters and resume writing and completing job applications. So we're not just working with them academically, but we're also providing a web of support so that they can get gainful employment as well. Next slide, please. Also, all students who are in the GED course must enroll in GED Manager, and it helps them to get testing information, practice exams. People don't realize as well that if a person, we had a young man who came by the school the other night, he passed all of his regents except, I believe, the math, which most of them don't. He did not have to come to take classes for all of those other content areas. He only needed to come to prep for math so that he could pass that portion. He can get his transcript uploaded on GE Manager. They can see what regions he did in fact pass. If he passed the English, the science, the social studies, he's good. It's all in that database, so when he goes to the testing center, he can register just for the section that he needs. So that's a good thing to have. Next slide, please. And of course, at the end of the day, at the successful completion of the GED classes, we will have our teacher recommend them to go on and take the GED. Our program is not a testing center, however, so all of our students are referred to testing centers. There are some in Yonkers and some in the Bronx. Next slide, please. In closing, our current enrollment is about 245. It's probably more even as we speak. We have 7 classes. 6 of them are ESL, as you noticed. The majority of our ESL classes are level 1. That's our biggest audience. Those are adults who come here and don't speak any English at all. And we have 1 GED class. We had such a big turnout for GED that it's possible we might have to open another section. We don't want too great a disparity in a class where you have students who might have adult basic literacy skills versus those who might be in 9th and 10th grade levels. Again, enrollment is free to all. Everyone is free to join. Most people think it's a grant, which is a fixed amount of money. It is not a grant. It's actually an allotment. For every hour that a student participates, it equals $12. And so that is how we generate our monies. So there's 0 cost to the district as well. Next slide. But in addition to all of the hard work, we also have a lot of fun. These are just pictures of cultural celebrations that we have to recognize the diversity of our students at night school. Next slide. We always have a wonderful holiday party with great food that's catered and a lot of good dancing. And at the end of the year, we have student recognitions in our classes where families come out and they are recognized for participating in the program. This is our team. That's me with a whole lot of makeup on and my hair done. And then we have Ms. Cipriano, who's our testing coordinator, Mr. Molina, who's our data manager, Pam, who's always answering the phone, which rings all day long, not just for Lincoln stuff, but also for night school, Ms. Buffa, Ms. Ferreira, Ms. Laurent, Ms. Irizarry, Ms. Lewis, Mr. DeLuca, who's been with the program probably since its inception, and our 2 newest members, Mr. Bacchus and Ms. King. And these are our case managers, Ms. Chambers and Ms. Ingram. And we always say that all dreams are within your reach. All you have to do is move towards them. We are very passionate about what we do at the adult education program because many of the teachers in the program, like myself, are children of immigrants or have immigrated here from different countries, or we just recognize the value of this second opportunity for the adults in our community. And when we have our orientation, I often share with our adult students that my mother came here from the West Indies, and she came to a similar program where she got her high school equivalency, her GED. She went on to college, and then she went on to get her master's. She was a lifelong educator, and ultimately she inspired me to be a lifelong educator. So we know that programs like this touch the lives of generations to come. And we know that programs like this can literally change the trajectory of the lives of our adult students and their children who attend our schools in this community. If somebody is educated, well-educated, they're gainfully employed, they're feeling self-confident, their children are certain to succeed and fulfill their potential. That is all for tonight. I thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. But before you leave, does anyone have any questions?
I do. I have a question. Years ago, Tedesco era, they used to have a more robust adult education program. When you're talking about an allotment, where does the allotment come from? And will we ever get back to offering other classes like some of the surrounding communities do for the community?
Well, I remember when we had a much more robust program because I actually was a teacher back in the day.
No disrespect, though. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is, I just am saying.
Yeah.
an expansion, not.
No,
I know
I know.
you're doing a great job.
No, I get you. What I'm saying is that I recall the days when it was at Davis School, and I was a teacher there, and it was a really, really big program. That is for sure. So you're absolutely right. It was huge. When I came into the program, it was at the height of the pandemic, and things changed dramatically. And when I received the program, Dr. Smith was the one who appointed me at that time. There were only 2 classes. So in the 4 years that I've been there, we've moved to 7 classes, and in fact, we might be opening up an 8th class this year, depending on how that GED class goes. I think it could be a cultural trend. I'm not, a trend, I shouldn't say a cultural trend, but a trend just in general. I'm not sure why the numbers have fallen off, but I do know that I've been very successful in moving it from 2 to potentially 8 classes, and part of that has been through social media, doing the robocall and doing that blast. And word of mouth plays a big role. An allotment is different from a grant in that a grant is a fixed amount, whereas an allotment means that if you have, for example, a student who does 10 hours a week, which is what they do, for 4 weeks, that's 40 hours times $12. That's the formula that the state gives us through the adult ed department. Then that's like $480. So every hour counts. The more adults, the more hours, the more money is allotted to you. Currently, we have 245 students. We intend to do another registration in the winter. Numbers fall off. Again, barriers to learning. People might get jobs. It gets cold. I don't have a car. I can't get there. I'm going back home to my country, and I don't come back. So we do another registration in January, which gives us, if we lose 50, let's say, we might get 100 more. So we'll end up having about 300 mid-year. And that's the amount that we use to ask for our allotment for the fall.
I have a question. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones.
Oh, I wish. Not quite doctor yet.
Well, you act like one.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Question, do we have an opportunity for hybrid learning or remote learning for our
Yes.
students in order for them to?
We do, and it is a conversation that they're having at Adult Ed. It was an offshoot of the pandemic. When I received it, like I said, within weeks, we went into lockdown and we moved to the online learning, and it was successful. And for some people, it was not. For the ESL beginners or for the adult basic education folks, they need to be in a class with teachers. The online component does not work. For some who are further along, particularly in GED, who are able to manage their coursework, we are hoping to work with the adult education department to have a distance learning class, like the packet classes back in the day. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Regarding the allotment you mentioned, does that expand to other types of courses? So, for example, if you wanted to offer culinary hospitality type of classes, would you be able to collect an allotment for that? I'm just thinking of
Not under EPE. We are under, and it's something that could happen, but I believe it is another funding source. And so also to go back to your question, Ms. Kelly, we are in the evenings. There are some programs that run all day long, where this is all they do, and they offer classes during the day and they offer classes at night, and they have a very expansive program where they have culinary arts, barbering and stuff like that. We don't have that. That is another funding source, and we would have to apply for that.
So the state's priority is really ESL and GED.
Well, I think because of the demographics of this community, as you can see, the vast majority of classes are ESL 1 and 2.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Mrs.
much.
Jones.
It was a pleasure.
And that ends the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
You're welcome.
I don't have access to my Word docs, so I can't see.
We're going to go on to committee reports.
So committee reports. Claims Committee, there was no report, there was no meeting. Facilities Committee? Trustee
Yes,
White?
we met last week
We talked about school dues, putting in the work orders that are needed. If you don't hear back from them in about a week, please send it back to them with your number that you registered under. We talked about a new exterminator we have for the district. And Parker's sinkhole, we talked about how we have to fill it. So they're filling it stage by stage so it can settle. Anything else? Speak.
All right, so during the call also, we talked about, I'm not the only one that goes to the different buildings and we see the overgrowth at the buildings, which is just a clear sign of just growth that's gone unchecked for at least 2 years in several buildings. I've been to Graham, I've been to Rebecca Turner, Benjamin Turner. When I say overgrowth, we're talking about where the bushes and trees are growing up the fence, out the fence, and it looks like what my grandmother used to call Tobacco Road. So we talked with Mr. Ramundi during the facilities call, and we have some agendas in place to get the muscle in and to get a hold of it. You know, this goes according to even with the grass cutting and making sure that the clippings are kept or picked up. I was at the high school field. It's not a thing that you can do anything with grass clippings except pick them up, because the actual chopping and leaving of grass actually suffocates the grass underneath it that's living. So you can't use it for anything but garbage bags. We discussed that, and also, I reached out to Dr. Smith, and she doesn't know it yet because I sent it to you a little while ago, a topic of signs. So about 3-4 years ago, there's new names for leadership and an honor academy, but not just those. Rebecca Turner, when they became the academy, they didn't get the sign that they have now, which just looks like printed out paper. And I understand that signs are just astronomical amounts of money. But I'm wondering, can we please work on that finally this year? Like the same signs like we have at Lincoln and Pennington. Right. It would be really cool it's about quality of life, right? For even our students. Can we have another talk about that soon?
We could always have a conversation about it. Isn't that what you just asked me? Yes, we can.
Conversation's supposed to lead to something getting done. All right.
Okay, can I just add that when they initially did open, we did have a conversation about it. And basically, Mr. Ramundi knows that at some point during the first year that they were there, that we were going to try to somehow get what everybody else has. It didn't happen. So we do have the sign, contrary to what other people say. Those students are very good. They have not destroyed it. They have not touched it. And it looks just as good as it might look for now. But we have a lot of beautiful signs sitting on other lawns. So we don't want them to feel any less than anybody else.
Is that it for facilities? Thank you. Next is technology. Trustee Maribel?
Yes, we met, technology met on yesterday, and we had a very robust conversation with Mr. Ramirez in terms of, number one, the organizational structure of the technology department and what that looks like moving forward, moving more towards staff and that are district employees. We do have a lot of consultants that are currently working based on the expertise of the expertise needed in the technology department. We also talked about the analytics in the district in terms of the curriculum and instruction and how they are aligned and what that looks like and what the usage is in the district. And so that was our initial conversation, and we look forward to some more conversation in the near future regarding the technology plan and what that looks like and moving forward and what that should look like next year.
Thank you.
And we have two other trustees, if they have anything they'd like to add, Trustee Mitchell and Trustee Middleton.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Very positive, optimistic in terms of moving forward with our technology department. And, you know, he did give us the plan, and we're just going to pursue it, and we just want to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be real quick. Yes, thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Appreciate you. One of the other topics we talked about was related to analyzing data, and that data is a couple of things. Number one, the fact that how parents are using the district site. We really need to see some sort of analytics that shows pain points. Are parents really using the site? And where they having the most issues navigating. It's been said since several years ago, the site just is broken. It's very confusing and people can't navigate. It's not user friendly at all. We did discuss this during the call. Thank you. Hopefully we'll get some update on that. And the other thing was related to how much education is happening at a digital pace and not really. So we've moved how far we've moved away from textbooks and workbooks physical. So I hope that we can really get some analytics on that, metrics to truly see, and soon, how much the children are learning digitally versus workbooks and textbooks. That's a crucial thing because that opens up a question to the budget committee also regarding the amount of money that's in the budget for workbooks and textbooks, because $1.7 million is quite a bit of cheddar. Thank you.
Thank you. Special education?
We did not meet.
Trustee Elizabeth?
No committee report for this week. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, wellness?
We didn't meet, but we were talking earlier today, and it involves wellness. The charging for second meals. The PTA Council, I'm going to just mention, the PTA Council did send us an email, a note, a letter they don't agree with it, with the fact that we're charging the students anything for second meals, especially because of how many children do need the nourishment, and that fact that our district is low income and below the poverty line for the most part. I just want to say thank you to the PTA Council for sharing that with us, and you're not alone in feeling the disagreement with this.
Thank you. And the IDA, that's next week, right, Chris?
Yeah, the 10th is the meeting.
Thank you. That's all for committee reports.
Trustee,
HR, did you guys do a meeting, or?
We didn't meet yet.
Our meeting is. You guys didn't meet?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't meet yet. I just want everybody to know that I am not a chairperson on a committee, but I am part of a few committees. So because I am not, I am assigned to a couple of schools, and I do just want to speak to RTA. And I want to say that we are in the process of formulating a PTA. And it's critical, it's important, and we are in the process of doing that so that we can have the new Rebecca Turner Academy, just like the new Mount Vernon High School, where these students have come from. We have pushed, and we're pushing for those students who have come from their 16, 17, 18-year-olds, right, that have come from that building, and who are now at RTA, double the time, double the credit, trying to graduate in January and June for those who can do January and can do June. We want to keep it that way. I had a concerned parent that came to me, and she expressed how concerned she was in reference to the credit recovery program that she heard that was going to be eliminated. And I just was like, I hope not, because, listen, the elimination of that is the point of why those students are really there. And to take that away would be taking away double the time, double the credit, and hopefully not a dropout rate that would exceed whatever it could be, might be. So I'm just saying to you that if you look across the budget lines and across the board, I'm sure there are other things that we can work on rather than taking from our children, who are the main reason or primary reason why we are all sitting here now. And so I pray that if that's a thought, that you rethink that thought and look across those budget lines for something else. Because had those students stayed where they were, would the graduation rate of Mount Vernon High School be what it is? So, because we have to push them on to try to help them, which is what we want to do, let's make provision for them to make them, in my head and in my heart and head, is the new Rebecca Turner academy. And that's what we want to do. So I pray for that, and we don't want to eliminate. We've always had credit recovery. I was a counselor for the alternative program for many years, and it worked. So contrary to what we say, if you want to look up data or whatever you need to look up, then that's what you need to do. But we don't want to eliminate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Middleton.
Trustee Saunders, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You mentioned that the Claims Committee hasn't met yet, and I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to talk to you about that. We have some tentative dates, October 29th, and we have June the 19th. I can't remember the February date, but we're meeting about 4 times a year. We're doing it a little differently this year. We are bringing in our insurance management team to kind of deal with the Claims Committee and giving us an overview of where we stand in each particular lawsuit so we can make the financial judgments with what we need to pay out to resolve before the insurance actually, quote unquote, kicks in. So this way we can be ahead of that when it comes down to making decisions. But I just failed to tell you that because we were doing a variety of
I
things.
apologize, Mr. Russell, because you did tell me the dates, and I just forgot to mention it.
Okay.
Is that
All
your
right.
way of
Well,
telling
I
me?
mean, no.
You
It's
did- you
age.
did
That's
give
what that
me-
is.
Yeah, you did give me dates. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's the end of committee reports.
Okay. Then we have follow-up on old business.
So old business, I'm following up on old business from the board meeting of September 17th. There were a few questions that were asked by the community, and so I'm just going to give you, the question was, what is the termination factor why this person got $10,000 to $12,000 raise and a 2-year contract? The answer to that question is the person has been able to save the district within 6 months a substantial amount of money. Contracts were up for renewal, hence the reason a new contract was given. The next question was, Friendship for Tots teachers were not paid their stipends on the 15th. Why is the district holding their money? The answer to that was, the vendor is paid at the end of the month in accordance to their contracts. That's the end of old business. Oh, the bus trips. No, that was answered. The food thing was answered, right? Okay, so the next one was, what's the status of charter schools? I'm sorry. The state is keeping the money as they are. Therefore, there are no increasing in their grade levels. Nothing has been posted for intellectus prep currently. The next question is, are there no bus trips this year? The answer is trips will be supported through fundraisings and grants. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay.
I have a question. Oh, you could ask questions.
Yeah, no, that was the answers to the questions from September 17th that the community asked.
I'm confused about one of the answers.
This is old business, right?
This is old business.
So
You confused about what? I'm sorry.
I'm confused about one of the questions and one of the answers.
Which one was that?
Friendship for Tots?
Friendship for Tots. Somebody wanted to know why their staff wasn't paid.
Isn't Friendship for Tots paid by grants and not
Yes,
by
and
the school?
and their grant was, the stipend was supposed to be given out on the 15th.
So we're not
Well, it
holding,
says
the
the
district
15th.
is not holding
No,
anything?
no.
Oh,
The
okay,
district
so
wasn't
I just
holding
want to
anything.
clarify that.
Well,
But that's independently run and not by the school district, correct? Isn't that independently run?
Yes, and they got paid based on their contract.
Okay.
Okay,
But that's independent,
yes.
okay.
any other questions regarding old business?
this is, I don't know if this is old business, but what is Rebecca North? Is that part of our school district,
Rebecca North?
the Wilson Woods?
No, no.
How is that school classified in our district?
You can ask Mr. McDonough. He knows more about that school.
It's a private school.
It's a
Okay.
private school for special ed. It's for special ed. Yeah,
Nothing to do with the school district.
yeah. Nothing to do with us. Okay. So we want to go right to, we don't have the agenda on the, I can't see it. I can't see it either.
We're going to go into our resolutions now. ready?
Yep,
Okay.
we're ready.
Can I have a motion for 5.1, Human Resources, 112A, certified?
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussions? Questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 5.2, Human Resources, 112B, classified?
Motion.
All in, questions, concerns, discussions?
I have a question. If I'm not mistaken, I think I swear I saw the corrected probationary periods for school monitors,
So
security monitors.
Trustee Middleton, your questions.
Oh, okay, right. So, what I want to know, because if I'm not mistaken, probably on a couple of meetings ago, there were school monitors who were slated for a 3-year probationary period, but now there's a correction with a 5-year period, and some of them are annoyed because they're wondering why there's a correction for that, when in fact, they were slated for 3 years and not 5.
Basically, that was a mistake. They're all slated for 5, so that's why there's a tab to vote on that.
There's a bunch of them corrections, so I just want to,
Excuse me, yeah,
there's a bunch of corrections.
it's 5 years.
Is that based on their, contracts? How were those probationary periods?
It's based on their
Okay.
contracts, yes.
So were the contracts not written correctly, or what was?
So it was a mistake that had to be corrected, and it's being corrected now. How mistakes was made, and we're correcting it. Did you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, so if you look at the contract, it's, if you look at the tab, you see it's back from 2021. So some people had 6-month probationary period at some point. Some people had a 3-year probationary period. There was a discussion with the lawyers, the unions, the union as well, to determine what the exact probationary period that was supposed to be for every security monitor, and it was determined that it was 5 months, 5 years. So based on that, we looked at everybody. We took time. This was something that was discussed from last school year, but we wanted to make sure that we were correct in making sure that we had everybody on that it would affect and had them on the right probationary period. It's in their contract.
So the union is sitting in on this. It's not just that the district is, it's the union, in-house counsel, and our other lawyers who are addressing this issue. The error, I guess, in the application.
So there's some people become 3 years and then permanent after probationary, and then you discovered after that they probably should have had 5 years too.
Not the contract.
Well, I know the contract says that, but because there was a mistake, my question is, do you have people who were actually 3 years that should have been 5 years, but at 3 years they became permanent and not really follow through with the 5 years?
There was somebody that
because people are fussing about it. I'm just, asking.
Which was expected. It was a shock to some people. So they received letters. So there was discussion that had, like I said, this was something that was done over a period of time in order to make sure that it was done correctly. So I do understand there are people that would have passed that original probationary period of whether it was given to them for 6 months or for 3 years, but we made the correction now.
Okay, is that it for HR? Is that it?
Have we captured all the errors? Are we still working through this list?
Is that question to Dr. Smith?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, any more? All in-
Yes, we're still working through the list, or yes, we've captured all of the data? Dr. Smith?
Yeah. Yes, we captured all of the mistakes.
You're in the hot seat, Noel. Okay.
Okay.
Is that it for that resolution?
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so board docs is down, so I'm gonna,
Okay.
so can I have a motion for 6.1, updated appointment of technology links for the 2024-2025 school year?
Motion.
Second.
Who was first? That was you? Okay. Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 6.2, authorization to hire staff for the 2024-2025 No Place for Hate teams?
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 6.3, authorization to hire staff for the 2024-2025 K-8 MTSS teams?
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions?
I have a question. I'd like to just ask this question to the Education Committee, basically, or to Dr. Smith. All right, but 2 in 1. Okay. So, as I could see that Ms. Peralta is part of the MTSS team, right? Right? The counselor, right? So, do you all discuss the needs of RTA, right, students, in reference to their academics, credit recovery, and the credits they need to graduate?
You could answer that.
This committee right here, specifically K-8, Ms. Jennifer Guaparolta was instrumental with the counselor support for the K-8 MTS committee at Rebecca Turner Elementary School. So she became part of the leadership team when we developed this for the district. RTA wasn't online at that point, so we wanted to sustain Jennifer Guaparolta on this team. However, we are vetting a MTSS for secondary education as we speak. So we're looking forward to that. We vetted 2 companies right now. Once we decide on that, that's going to also reveal the requirements for the Judy Elliott report, because the secondary MTSS has been missing. We want to fill that void immediately.
Okay. Got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 7.1, approval of pupil personnel services memorandum number 6 dated October 1st, 2024?
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 7.2, authorization to disperse stipends for providing program services for the operating of the Purchase College Grant Potential Program at the Denzel Washington School of the Arts, Mount Vernon STEAM Academy, and Lincoln School for the 2024-2025 school year?
Motion. Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions?
This is the same great potential stipends that we saw historically. We've been doing this for several years now, right? Okay, so I had heard about it and I don't remember seeing it. It's good to see it here. Thank you.
All in.
So that was the question, right? Good. Okay. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 7.3, authorization to approve to continue the district's Title I school-wide committee for the 2024-25 school year? Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 7.4, approval to award the winners of the RFP number 2024-25-02, special education and related services for ages pre-K to 22?
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 7.5, authorization to approve a Youth Leadership Institute and CHIP program at Lincoln School?
Second.
Who seconded? Oh, okay. Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 8.1, approval of the extension of Picture Perfect Land Services, Inc., original bid for the 2024-2025 school year?
Motion.
McDonough, Trustee McDonough, that was you who seconded? Okay. Questions, concerns, discussions?
Yes, I had asked for a scope of work. I'm not really sure what they do in our district. I thought they maintained the beds. I was told no, so I'd like to know what they did last year based on the contract. What were they responsible
I think
for?
that we did get that answer. Somebody sent
Or
it.
maybe I
to me.
missed that
Yeah.
one,
But I-
because I
but-
did ask that maybe last night.
Yeah.
Sorry about it, but there it is.
But he can, but Rita sent it at 12 o'clock, but we can, but Dr. Smith, can you answer that?
You can answer.
Yeah.
So the question was what services they provide. So in the contract, they provide any and all services associated with landscaping at our authorization. So for instance, in the Facilities Committee, when we discussed how the grounds crew is a small crew and their services are split and spread pretty thin throughout the district, those areas that aren't commonly hit, we can authorize them to assist our grounds crew to hit those areas. So if you look at the contract that was sent, it lists everything that they can do for us, and if we want to call them or not. So it's not like we're on the fence to pay them continuously. It's just as needed.
I have a question. Are these the same people that we use to abate this overgrowth that Trustee Mitchell was referring to? Is it the same people that do that?
They would do that, yes.
Okay, so I have a question. So historically, Picture Perfect only handled the fine tuning, so the flower beds and things like that. They didn't do the normal stuff that our grounds people should handle, which is the overgrowth and how the chopped grass is handled. Is Picture Perfect, I might be missing it, but let me know, is Picture Perfect now we're expanding their scope of work and there's more dollars attached?
Their scope of work was already there. It covered, it's like you go to a supermarket. You can choose whatever product you'd like to buy. Why they didn't do it in the past was, to my understanding, an agreement with our grounds people to keep everything in-house, but it's gotten to the point where it's just unmanageable. I mean, our property is massive, and they do all the moves, and then the weather comes into play. So during our own internal meetings, they've discussed that, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring a company in to support those areas which are very time-consuming, because they hit 4 to 5 buildings per day. They also do all the major moves throughout the district. A lot of those are time-sensitive with assessments or, internal documents and that sort of thing. And then if the weather's non-cooperative, all grounds services stop. So this would really assist in maintaining the grounds for a district this size.
How does that impact our need to hire more grounds people, which was part of the discussion we had at our last meeting also?
So we would still need a company to assist in those areas, because even bringing on one more groundsman, truthfully, a district this size, we need 20 people. We have 8. So 20 people just for the landscaping. We probably need another 5 or 6 for the moves. So we're severely understaffed. So if we ever want to have that visual that we all have in our minds of how the grounds are kept and maintained, we really need to increase. This is the most cost-effective and efficient way to do so, where we still have our people employed to perform these services throughout the district, but also can sub out as needed, which also controls costs to hit specific areas, so we really reach that level that we're looking for.
So in impact, it reduces our need to hire more grounds people because we're going to be able to outsource it to Picture Perfect, correct?
I wouldn't put it that way because it's not an accurate statement to make, because it's more cost effective to procure services from a vendor in isolated or specific instances than to bring on people that are 25, 20, 25 people. So
Because, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
I want to understand, so they're on a as-need basis. We save on the cost of an employee because then there would be benefits and such. We kind of, okay. I get that. I'm just not sure what they do still. They do snow removal, they do grass cutting, I've seen the beds, nobody's weeding.
we also really haven't called them. That's the issue.
Okay, because
So,
that.
yes, no.
Okay.
If we were calling any vendor, landscaping, snow removal, whomever, and they didn't live up to their bargain, we can terminate our agreement with them and move on to another one. So they really haven't been utilized. This time we plan on utilizing them. It's a new regime, it's a new everything. So we're going to utilize them, but again, every person we hire averages out around $100,000 for the district. So these companies, we're not their only client, so they can perform their service at a much lower rate because we're one of, 15 clients they service, so that's how the costs get spread around. So this is very financially responsible for any district to sub out certain obligations that the in-house crew would have.
So we're going to be effectively utilizing them more productively, I don't know.
Exactly.
Because I see a lot of need in our district, and so that was my concern. We hired them last year. We agreed to the contract. And I just want to make sure we get the services. It's cost effective, I agree. Okay. Thank you for answering the questions.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 9.1, approve general funds transfer, purchase order increase for 2024-2025, October 1st, 2024.
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Question, is this the one about the gardener? Is this? Excuse me, that's not the gardener. It's a curriculum-based program for the Greenhouse Initiative.
That's my question. Thank you very much for that clarification. And it's because board docs didn't allow me to pull it up, so that's why I couldn't tell. I just remembered it was, we originally approved a $50,000 budget line, right? This is an additional is this an additional 70 or is this an additional 20? Because the contract says 25 for the contractor and 25 for the materials. So can somebody explain to me why we're looking at 70?
So basically, 25,000 of that amount is for the contractor. The other 25 is for supplies. So the 20, what was the additional amount for again?
So the 25,000 was in the wrong budget code for the greenhouse. So we had to move it to the appropriate budget code under materials and supplies. The other 45,000 is because the materials and supplies budget code was under budgeted in order to sustain the district. So it's a one-shot transfer to cover the materials and supplies earmarked for the greenhouse and also materials and supplies for the district.
Okay, can we, Dr. Smith, can we make sure that the paperwork is reflective of that? Because the paperwork indicates that it's for the curriculum piece. So if we can make sure that we reallocate the funding, that it's appropriately, so if it's 50 plus the 20 and 20 is for something else, can we make sure that our line items reflect that and it's indicated on our documents?
Certainly.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 9.2, authorization for online auction contract agreement for the sale of educational institutional assets with Absolute Auctions and Realty, Inc.?
Motion.
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 9.3, authorization for online auction contract agreement for the sale of educational institution assets with Auctions International, Inc.?
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussions?
I'm sorry, why do we need two different online contract? Why do we need two different companies for this?
Jose, you can answer the question.
Good evening.
Good evening. Your mic is your mic off?
Good evening, everybody. Madam President, Acting Superintendent. So there are items that can be offered overseas, and that's why the international section of that. Like, for example, if we have devices that are obsolete, considered obsolete for us, they can be offered to other third world countries and they purchase them in bulk. Even not functioning devices, they purchase the parts. And what we are doing is we are allowing for this company to be allowed to do that internationally. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Okay, motion carries. Have a motion for 9.4, authorization to accept a donation for the Mount Vernon STEAM Academy Senior Class 2025.
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. I have a motion for 9.5, authorization to accept a donation of 2 basketball rims for the Cecile H. Parker Playground.
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 9.6, authorization to accept a donation from Mount Vernon football team?
Motion.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for 10.1, authorization to amend the 2024-2025 Board of Education meeting calendar?
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Can I have a motion to pull 10.2, authorization to enter into contract agreement with the law firm of Jennifer Ardiri, PC? I need a motion to pull it.
Motion to pull.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Abstain? Okay. 10.2 is pulled for further discussion. Okay. Can I have a motion for 11.1, authorization to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation, the financial history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and to receive legal advice on pending matter?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We are in executive session.